You saved more than just my life, boy. You saved my soul." Denzel whispered the words as the German shepherd leaned in, eyes filled with unspoken truth. But the dog's past wasn't just about loyalty. It was laced with secrets, war, and a mission buried so deep it could get them all killed. Welcome to Woof Woof Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. On a quiet evening, long after the day's chaos had settled, Denzel Washington sat alone in his trailer, the soft hum of the air conditioner the only sound accompanying his thoughts. The day's weight was heavy, the kind of fatigue that seeps into your bones, but something about the stillness felt different tonight. Just as he was about to turn off the lights, a faint scratching came from the trailer door. At first, he thought it was the wind, or maybe a stray branch tapping the wood. But then it came again, more urgent, insistent. Curiosity stirred. Denzel rose slowly and approached the door. He hesitated a moment before pulling the latch open, unsure of what to expect. There, sitting patiently on the dusty step, was a German shepherd. The dog's fur was matted and dusty, but its eyes were sharp, almost piercing, locked onto Denzel with a quiet intensity. It wasn't the way of a lost animal seeking shelter. There was something deeper, something searching. Denzel crouched down, extending a tentative hand. The dog didn't flinch, didn't back away. It simply leaned into the touch, as if relieved to find someone who would finally notice. The air between them was thick with unspoken understanding. For a moment, time seemed to pause. The dog's collar was old and worn, but no tags were attached. It didn't bark or whimper. It just stayed close, as though it had found a refuge it hadn't known it needed. Denzel felt an unexpected swell of emotion, a connection sparked by something neither could yet explain. Without thinking, he opened the door wider and stepped aside. The dog slipped inside quietly, padding across the floor with careful steps. As the door closed behind them, Denzel looked down into the dog's eyes once more, sensing that this was no ordinary visitor. What the dog would do next would change everything and bring Denzel to tears. The night had just begun. The next morning, sunlight spilled softly through the trailer windows, casting long shadows across the worn wooden floor. Denzel awoke to a gentle warmth pressed against his leg. Opening his eyes, he found the German shepherd curled up quietly beside him, its steady breathing a calm rhythm in the stillness. The dog hadn't moved all night, a silent guardian who had claimed the space without a word. Outside, birds sang and the world carried on, but inside the trailer, a new chapter was unfolding. Denzel watched the dog with a mix of wonder and concern. Its coat was rough, and its ribs showed faintly beneath the fur, a clear sign of a hard life. But the dog's eyes held a fierce intelligence and an unyielding spirit that hadn't been broken by whatever hardships it had endured. Later, as Denzel stepped outside to get some fresh air, the dog followed at his heels, its steps cautious yet determined. It sat patiently by the door, looking out toward the quiet street like it was waiting for something or someone. Passers-by glanced curiously at the pair, but the dog ignored the world, focused on an unseen horizon. Denzel couldn't shake the feeling that this dog was more than just a stray. There was a story behind those eyes, a history woven with loss and loyalty. He knelt down, brushing the dust from the dog's muzzle. The dog looked up, head tilted slightly, as if asking without words, "Why me?" For hours, the dog stayed by the trailer door, steadfast and silent, a lone sentinel against the quiet morning. Neighbors remarked on the unexpected visitor, some offering food or water, but the dog remained close to Denzel, as if it had found its anchor. As evening approached and the sky turned a soft shade of orange, Denzel sat on the porch, the dog resting its heavy head on his knee. Neither spoke, but in that silence, an unspoken promise began to form, one that neither man nor dog could yet fully understand. Together, they were no longer alone. Denzel settled into his favorite worn chair, just as the fading light of dusk seeped through the windows. The day's worries weighed heavily on him, and he welcomed a rare chance for quiet reflection. The dog lay at his feet, its breathing slow and steady, as if sharing in the calm. For a moment, The world outside the trailer seemed to pause, offering a fragile peace neither had known in a long time. But the silence didn't last. A sudden noise shattered the stillness, a sharp clatter coming from outside the trailer. Instinctively, Denzel's head snapped up, eyes narrowing as he reached for a flashlight nearby. The dog perked its ears and rose to its feet, muscles tense, alert. Its gaze locked on the door, body poised to act. Denzel stepped toward the door, heart pounding not just from surprise, but from a strange, growing protectiveness. He cracked it open cautiously, flashlight sweeping across the dim surroundings. At first, nothing stirred except the soft rustle of leaves and a distant barking echoing faintly in the night. The dog's low growl broke the quiet, warning clear and steady. Suddenly, a shadow moved just beyond the porch light, a figure darting quickly past the edge of the trailer. Denzel's breath caught. Without thinking, he stepped out, the dog close behind, eyes sharp and unyielding. Whoever had disturbed their peace was gone, but the tension lingered like a thick fog. Denzel looked down at the dog, whose eyes now held something more than alertness, a fierce determination, almost pleading. It was clear this wasn't just any stray or lost animal. There was history here, a past wrapped in secrets neither of them yet fully understood. As he closed the door behind them, the quiet that returned was heavier, charged with something unseen. The night no longer felt safe or simple. For Denzel, the unexpected visitor had arrived for a reason, and that reason was about to change everything. He knelt and ran a hand through the dog's thick fur, whispering softly, "We're in this together now." The dog responded with a steady gaze, as if promising it wouldn't let him down. Denzel sat quietly on the porch steps, the night air cool against his skin. The dog lay beside him, its gaze fixed on the distant horizon, but every so often, those deep, intelligent eyes would shift back to Denzel, as if searching for something beyond words. There was a weight behind those eyes, a history he could feel but not yet understand. He reached down and gently touched the dog's face, tracing the scars barely visible beneath the rough fur. Each mark seemed to whisper a tale of survival, battles fought in silence and shadows. The dog's eyes never wavered. They held steady, revealing a blend of strength and vulnerability that pulled at Denzel's heart. In that quiet moment, Denzel realized the dog wasn't just a lost animal. It was a witness, an unspoken testament to a past filled with hardship, perhaps even pain inflicted by those who should have cared. Yet, despite everything, there was a fierce loyalty, an unbreakable spirit that refused to be extinguished. He thought about the journey that had brought this dog to his doorstep. How many miles had it traveled? How many nights spent alone, hungry and afraid? And why had it chosen him? The questions swirled, unanswered but pressing. As the moonlight bathed them both in a soft glow, Denzel felt a connection form, not just between man and animal, but between two souls carrying burdens unseen. The dog's eyes seemed to say, "I've been through the darkness. Do you have the strength to walk with me?" Denzel met that gaze, the unspoken challenge resonating deep inside him. He nodded slightly, feeling a resolve settle over him like a shield. Whatever secrets the dog carried, whatever dangers lay ahead, they would face them together. The night stretched on, filled with silence and understanding. The eyes told their story without a single word spoken, stories of loss, resilience, and hope. And for the first time in a long while, Denzel felt a flicker of something he hadn't known he needed, a chance to heal. The next morning dawned gray and quiet, the sky heavy with low clouds that mirrored Denzel's cautious mood. The German shepherd sat a few feet away, eyes watchful but calm. Denzel watched the dog closely, sensing the fragile line between wariness and acceptance. He knew trust wasn't given lightly, especially not between two beings scarred by their pasts. The dog's reluctance was clear. It hesitated at every gesture, every attempt at closeness. Yet there was a subtle shift, a slow easing in the way it allowed him near. It was in the way the dog held still when he reached out, and in the softening gaze that met his own. Denzel fetched a bowl and filled it with water, setting it carefully on the floor. The dog approached cautiously, sniffing the air, then lapping at the water with deliberate care. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Encouraged, Denzel reached into a bag and pulled out some leftover chicken, breaking it into small pieces. He offered a piece with an open palm, fingers extended flat. For a moment, the dog stayed still, eyes flickering with uncertainty. Then, with slow, careful steps, it edged forward and took the food gently. The connection sparked there, simple, silent, profound. The dog's tail gave a faint wag, barely noticeable but full of meaning. Denzel settled back against the trailer wall, feeling the weight of the moment. Trust was beginning to grow, not through words, but through small acts of patience and respect. The dog wasn't just a visitor anymore. It was a companion cautiously stepping out of the shadows. Hours passed with shared silence, the barrier between them thinning with each passing moment. Denzel knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Trust once broken wasn't quickly rebuilt. But as the dog rested its head on his knee, eyes closing briefly in surrender, he felt hope stirring. This was just the beginning of their journey together, a journey built on reluctant trust and the promise of healing for them both. As darkness fell, the trailer grew still except for the gentle breathing shared between man and dog. The day's cautious steps toward trust had left a quiet imprint, subtle but undeniable. Denzel sat near the small window, watching the stars begin to twinkle, while the German shepherd curled close at his feet, a silent sentinel guarding the fragile peace between them. No words were spoken, none were needed. In the quiet of the night, a bond was forming, woven from moments too deep for language. The dog's head rested lightly against Denzel's boot, its warm breath a steady presence in the cool air. Denzel felt the weight of the unspoken promise settling between them, a mutual understanding forged through shared loneliness and unspoken pain. Memories flickered in his mind, moments of loss, struggle, and solitude, and he sensed the dog carried its own echoes of hardship. They were two travelers on different paths now crossing, each offering a silent pledge to stand together against whatever storms might come. Outside, the wind whispered softly through the trees, carrying with it a sense of calm that wrapped around the trailer like a protective shroud. Inside, time seemed to slow, each heartbeat a steady drum marking the beginning of something new. Denzel's hand moved instinctively, reaching down to stroke the dog's rough fur, feeling the strength beneath the weariness. The dog's eyes fluttered open briefly, meeting his gaze with a depth that spoke of trust earned in the darkness. It was a look that said, "You don't have to face this alone." And in that instant, Denzel knew the feeling was mutual. The night held them both in its quiet embrace, two souls connected without words, finding comfort in the presence of another. There was healing here, fragile but real, blossoming softly in the stillness. As the moon cast silver light through the window, Denzel closed his eyes, allowing himself to lean into the bond they shared. Whatever tomorrow held, they would face it together. Days passed in quiet companionship, but one evening, as twilight melted into night, a knock came at Denzel's trailer door, unexpected and urgent. He opened it cautiously to find a woman, worn but determined, holding a faded photograph. Her eyes searched his with desperation. "I've been looking for him," she said softly, nodding toward the dog resting nearby. "His name is Rex." Denzel blinked, surprised. The dog lifted his head, ears alert, watching the woman with a flicker of recognition. She stepped inside, kneeling beside Rex, brushing her fingers gently through his matted fur. The dog leaned into her touch, eyes shimmering with something unspoken. "Rex was part of a K-9 unit," she explained, voice steady but tinged with pain. "We served together overseas. He saved my life more times than I can count." She held up the photograph, worn and creased, a younger Rex, sleek and proud, sitting beside a uniformed soldier. "After the last mission, he disappeared. We thought we'd lost him." Denzel listened, absorbing the weight of her words. The dog's secret past unfolded in fragments. A life of duty, danger, and devotion. Abandoned during a chaotic evacuation, Rex had somehow found his way far from the battlefields, carrying the scars of survival hidden beneath his steady gaze. The woman's voice faltered as she continued. He was more than a soldier's partner. He was family, and I believe he came to find me. Rex lay down at her feet, head resting against her boot, his eyes closing briefly in trust. Denzel watched the reunion, feeling the powerful current of loyalty and love that transcended words. The dog's history was no longer a mystery. It was a testament to resilience, bravery, and unyielding heart. For Rex, the past was not forgotten. It was a bridge leading him back to those who never gave up hope. Denzel reached out, touching Rex's collar thoughtfully. The pieces fell into place. This was more than chance. Rex's arrival was a call, a reminder that some bonds are forged in fire and never truly break. And in that moment, Denzel understood. Their journey had only just begun. Determined to uncover more about Rex's past, Denzel set out the next morning with a quiet resolve. He knew the dog's story was incomplete and that somewhere out there was someone searching for him, someone who mattered deeply to Rex. The photograph, now safely tucked in his jacket, was the only tangible clue. Denzel began by visiting local shelters and veterinary clinics, asking if anyone recognized the German Shepherd. Each place offered kind words, but no answers. Rex's calm demeanor and trained behavior hinted at a disciplined past, but the trail remained cold. Still, Denzel pressed on, his hope fueled by the dog's steady presence at his side. He also reached out to online groups dedicated to military canines, posting the photo and details. Messages trickled in, some hopeful, some doubtful, but none matched Rex's story precisely. The internet's vast reach made the search feel both promising and endless. Back at the trailer, Rex seemed calmer, more at ease, as if sensing Denzel's commitment to the task. At night, the dog watched the horizon, ears perked, waiting. One afternoon, a breakthrough arrived in the form of a phone call. A woman's voice, weary but resolute, asked if Denzel had found a dog matching Rex's description. She explained she had been searching tirelessly for her partner's K9, a brave German Shepherd who had gone missing during their last deployment overseas. Denzel's heart quickened as he shared what he knew. They arranged to meet at a nearby park. When the woman arrived, her eyes met Rex's instantly. The dog stood, tail wagging slowly but unmistakably. She knelt, tears falling as she embraced Rex, her hands trembling with relief and gratitude. "This is him," she whispered. "My partner, my friend. I never stopped looking." Denzel watched quietly, a sense of peace settling over him. The search had led them here, to a reunion born of faith and love. But as they spoke, Denzel sensed the story wasn't finished. There were shadows still to uncover, and Rex's past held more than just memories. And so, with the reunion came a new question. What had Rex truly been through, and what dangers might still lie ahead? As the woman gently cradled Rex, Denzel's eyes were drawn to the dog's collar, a sturdy leather band worn and weathered by time. Something about it caught his attention, a small, faded tag hanging loosely, almost hidden beneath the thick fur. He reached out and carefully lifted the collar, revealing a series of etched numbers and letters barely legible from years of wear. "What's this?" Denzel asked softly. The woman glanced down, her brow furrowing. "I don't know. It's been like that since he went missing." Denzel took out his phone and snapped a clear photo of the tag, intending to decipher the cryptic code later. There was something official about the markings, too precise to be random. It looked like a military identification number, or perhaps a tracking code linked to Rex's unit. That night, alone in the quiet of his trailer, Denzel zoomed in on the photo, studying the faded inscription. He cross-referenced the numbers with online databases related to military K9 units and missing animals. After hours of digging, a match emerged. The code corresponded to a classified program involving specially trained military dogs deployed in covert operations overseas. The realization hit hard. Rex wasn't just a soldier's companion. He was part of something larger, something wrapped in secrecy. Denzel's mind raced. Why had Rex been left behind? What mission had been so important that the dog was tagged and tracked so meticulously? And who was responsible for his disappearance? He shared the findings with the woman during their next meeting. Her eyes widened, the weight of the mystery settling between them like a shadow. "We never knew the full story," she admitted. "They told us it was a routine deployment, but Rex was special, maybe too special." Together, they vowed to uncover the truth behind the collar, the meaning of the code, the fate of Rex's unit, and the secrets buried in his past. The collar had become more than identification. It was a key, unlocking questions that demanded answers. As the night deepened, Denzel felt the gravity of their quest. The dog's journey was far from over, and the clues etched in worn leather were just the beginning. One crisp morning, as Denzel and the woman prepared to continue their search, Rex suddenly stopped in his tracks. His nose twitched, ears pricked forward, and his body stiffened. A faint but unmistakable scent wafted through the air, something old, familiar, and deeply ingrained in his memory. Denzel watched closely as Rex followed the scent with purpose, leading them down a narrow dirt path behind the trailer. The dog moved steadily, eyes focused and determined, as if guided by a thread from the past. The woman's breath caught in her throat. She knew that scent, too. As they rounded a bend, the source of the smell became clear, a worn leather satchel resting against a weathered tree stump. The bag looked abandoned, forgotten by time, yet it held a strange significance. Rex approached cautiously, sniffing the satchel with intense curiosity. When the woman opened the bag, a rush of memories seemed to flood over her face. Inside were several weathered documents, a faded photograph of a soldier in uniform, and a small, metal dog tag engraved with a name, one that sent a shiver through Denzel. The tag belonged to the soldier Rex had served with, his partner and best friend. The scent that had drawn Rex here was tied not just to the bag, but to a bond forged in the heat of battle, a connection that transcended years and distance. As the woman held the dog tag, tears welled in her eyes. "This was lost during our last mission," she whispered. "I never thought we'd find it." Rex nuzzled her gently, a quiet comfort in the face of painful memories. For the dog, the scent had unlocked a part of his past he had carried silently within, a reminder of loyalty, sacrifice, and the price of war. Denzel stood back, humbled by the moment. He realized that Rex's journey was not just about survival, but about carrying the weight of love and loss. And now, with this discovery, the path ahead was clearer, one that would lead them closer to the truth. The scent had stirred more than memory. It had reignited a mission unfinished. Together, they would follow where it led. As night settled over the quiet countryside, Denzel prepared a small fire outside the trailer, its warm glow casting flickering shadows on the surrounding trees. The day's revelations had stirred deep emotions in all of them, man, woman, and dog alike. It was a moment to pause, to find comfort in each other's presence amid the uncertainty. Rex lay close by, his body relaxed for the first time in days, eyes half closed as he soaked in the soothing warmth. The woman sat beside him, gently brushing his fur with careful fingers, whispering soft words that only he could understand. Her voice trembled with a mix of sorrow and hope, a balm to the wounds carried unseen for so long. Denzel poured 2 mugs of tea, the steam rising like a promise of renewal. He handed one to her, and together they sat beneath the stars, sharing silence broken only by the crackling fire and the occasional sigh from Rex. The dog's breathing deepened, each exhale a release of the tension that had gripped him since their journey began. The scars on his body, though invisible to casual eyes, seemed to soften in the gentle night air. In this moment, he was not a soldier, not a lost soul, but simply a companion embraced by kindness. Denzel glanced at the woman, noticing how her shoulders had eased, how the tightness around her eyes had softened. The discovery of the dog tag and the shared memories had opened old wounds, but here, by the firelight, healing had quietly begun. "I never thought a dog could teach me so much about loyalty," Denzel said softly, breaking the comfortable silence. She smiled faintly. "Rex has been through hell, and yet, here he is, still fighting, still loving." Their eyes met, understanding passing between them without words. The night was a shelter from the past, a pause before the challenges ahead. As the fire dwindled to embers and the cool air crept in, Denzel reached down to rest his hand on Rex's head. The dog looked up, eyes meeting his with a calm that spoke of trust earned and a bond that would not break. In the quiet night, surrounded by warmth and healing, they found strength to face whatever tomorrow might bring. Through days and nights that followed, Rex's loyalty became a steady beacon in the lives of those around him. His unwavering presence was more than comfort. It was a living testament to resilience and devotion. No matter the challenges they faced, Rex remained steadfast, a silent protector and faithful friend. Whenever danger or uncertainty lurked near, the dog's keen instincts surfaced. His ears would twitch, muscles tense, eyes scanning the shadows with a sharpness honed by years of training and survival. Yet, beneath that alert exterior was a heart that beat only for those he trusted. Denzel watched with growing admiration as Rex navigated their daily struggles with grace. Whether guiding them through difficult terrain or standing guard as they rested, Rex was always alert, always ready. The bond between man and dog deepened with each shared moment, built not just on necessity, but on genuine affection and mutual respect. One afternoon, as the woman spoke of past battles and lost comrades, Rex lay quietly at her feet, head resting gently on her boot. It was clear his loyalty extended beyond mere duty. It was a connection forged in hardship and love. He had been her shield when the world turned harsh, and now, even miles away from the battlefield, his commitment never wavered. Denzel realized that Rex's loyalty was a mirror to their own courage. The courage to face pain, to seek truth, and to heal. It was a reminder that trust, once earned, became a powerful force, capable of bridging the deepest wounds. In moments of doubt or fear, Rex was their anchor. His steady gaze and calm presence offered reassurance without words, a promise that they would not face the darkness alone. As night fell and the stars emerged, Denzel reached down, stroking Rex's fur with gratitude. The dog's eyes met his, unwavering and clear, silently affirming their bond. In Rex's loyalty, they found hope, a light that would guide them through whatever lay ahead. Days turned into weeks, and the quiet presence of Rex began to soften walls that had stood firm for years. Denzel noticed how, slowly but surely, the barriers between them all were breaking down. Not just the dog's cautious exterior, but their own defenses as well. The woman, once guarded and hesitant, found herself sharing stories she had long buried. Tales of missions, losses, and the fragile hope that had kept her going. With Rex as a bridge, she spoke more openly, her voice gaining strength with each word. The dog's patient companionship gave her the courage to confront memories that had once seemed too heavy to bear. Denzel, too, felt the change stirring within. Rex's quiet loyalty and the woman's emerging trust chipped away at his own walls built from years of solitude and silence. He found himself opening up in unexpected ways, allowing the healing power of connection to seep into places long neglected. The dog played a crucial role in this transformation. His gentle nudges and steady presence reminded them all that vulnerability wasn't weakness. It was a pathway to freedom. Moments that once would have been met with hesitation were now met with shared smiles and understanding glances. One afternoon, as they sat together by the fire, Rex rested his head on Denzel's knee, eyes half closed in contentment. The woman looked on, her expression softening. "I never thought I'd feel safe again," she admitted quietly. "But with Rex and with you, I think maybe I can." Denzel nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle warmly in his chest. The barriers that had once kept them apart were crumbling, replaced by something fragile yet real, trust. In the stillness that followed, the three of them sat side by side, bound by a growing sense of belonging. The past, with all its scars and shadows, was no longer a prison. Together, they were breaking free, one honest moment at a time. And in that breaking, they found a first true glimpse of hope. One quiet morning, as sunlight filtered softly through the curtains, Denzel's phone buzzed unexpectedly. The screen displayed an unknown number. He hesitated before answering, curiosity mingling with caution. The voice on the other end was calm, but carried an edge of urgency. "Mr. Washington? We know about Rex. We know about the dog tag and the files you've uncovered." Denzel's grip tightened on the phone. "Who is this? That's not important right now. What matters is that you and Rex are being watched. The past you're digging into has people who want it buried." The line went silent for a heartbeat before the voice continued. "If you want to keep Rex safe, stop your search. Walk away." Before Denzel could respond, the call ended abruptly, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. He stared at the phone, a mixture of anger and worry swirling inside him. The message was clear. Someone powerful was paying attention, and they didn't want Rex's story told. He shared the call with the woman, whose eyes darkened with resolve. "They're scared because Rex holds answers," she said firmly. "We can't stop now, not when we're so close." Rex, as if sensing the shift in energy, rose and paced restlessly, ears flicking toward every sound. His protective instincts were heightened, reflecting the new danger closing in around them. Denzel knew their peaceful days were over. The unexpected message was a warning, a shadow cast over their fragile sanctuary. But it also steeled his determination. They would face whatever came with courage, together. The past was no longer just a story waiting to be uncovered. It was a force that had awakened, demanding reckoning. And in the quiet aftermath of the call, Denzel looked down at Rex, eyes meeting the dog's unwavering gaze, silently promising that no threat would break their bond. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it side by side. Late one evening, after the weight of the day's revelations settled heavily around him, Denzel found himself alone in the dim light of the trailer. The walls, usually a refuge, felt closer, like they were closing in on the quiet fears he'd long kept buried. The unexpected threats, the mysteries of Rex's past, and the fragile connections forming now stirred something deeper within him. He sank into a worn chair, the silence pressing against him as memories surfaced unbidden. Years of solitude, sacrifices made in the name of strength, and the walls he had built to protect himself all felt suddenly fragile. For the first time in a long while, Denzel confronted his own vulnerabilities, not as weakness, but as the raw truth of being human. Rex, sensing the shift, approached slowly and rested his head on Denzel's knee. The simple gesture broke through the fog of doubt. The dog's steady presence reminded him that strength wasn't in hiding pain, but in facing it honestly. Denzel traced gentle circles along Rex's fur, feeling the warmth beneath his fingertips. The dog's unwavering loyalty had been a silent anchor through the storm, and now it was helping Denzel anchor himself. He thought of the woman and the bond they shared, how trust, once so difficult to give, was slowly growing. And he realized that opening up to others didn't diminish who he was. It made him stronger. The fears that had once whispered in the dark were now met with a quiet determination. Vulnerability was no longer a barrier, but a bridge, connecting him to Rex, to the woman, and to a future filled with uncertain promise. As the night deepened, Denzel allowed himself to breathe, to feel, to hope. In the stillness, with Rex's faithful eyes watching, he embraced a truth long avoided. That real strength comes from accepting who you are, flaws and all. And with that acceptance came the courage to face whatever lay ahead, together. Late one evening, as shadows deepened around the trailer, the woman finally shared a truth she had long kept hidden. The dog's arrival wasn't random. It was part of a desperate plan to protect something precious, something dangerous. She revealed that Rex had been entrusted with a secret during their last mission, a secret that powerful forces wanted to control or erase. When chaos erupted overseas, Rex was separated from his handler and sent away with a vital piece of information, something encoded in the dog tag and the worn satchel they had found. The mission had been compromised, and those who knew the truth were willing to do anything to keep it buried. Rex's journey was not just about survival. It was about safeguarding that secret until it could be delivered to someone trustworthy. Denzel listened intently, the weight of the revelation settling like a stone in his chest. The dog wasn't just a companion or a lost soldier. He was a guardian, carrying a burden far greater than any of them had imagined. The woman's voice trembled as she confessed her fears that their search had put them all in danger. But she also expressed a fierce hope that together, they could uncover the truth and bring light to what had been hidden for too long. Rex lay quietly nearby, his eyes reflecting a mix of exhaustion and determination. The bond between them had grown into a shared mission, one fueled by loyalty, courage, and the promise of justice. Denzel felt the fragile threads of their lives weaving tighter, connected by the weight of the past and the urgency of the present. Whatever challenges awaited, the truth behind the dog's arrival had set them on a path they could no longer turn away from. And as the night stretched on, they steeled themselves for the fight ahead, knowing that Rex was more than a survivor. He was the key. The day dawned cold and gray when news arrived that a reunion long awaited was finally within reach. The woman had tracked down the last known location of Rex's former handler, a man whose life had been entwined with the dogs through trials that neither could forget. The thought of bringing them together stirred a mixture of hope and apprehension in everyone. When the moment came, the air was thick with emotion. The handler, worn by years of absence and haunted by memories, stepped forward cautiously. His eyes immediately found Rex, and in that instant, years of separation melted away. The dog responded with a soft whine, wagging his tail slowly but unmistakably, recognizing the bond that had never truly broken. Tears welled in the handler's eyes as he knelt, reaching out to run his hands over Rex's familiar fur. "I never stopped looking for you," he whispered, voice thick with gratitude and sorrow. The woman watched silently, knowing this reunion was more than just a meeting. It was healing for two souls scarred by war and loss. Denzel felt the weight of the moment deeply, understanding that sometimes what is lost can be found again in the quiet strength of connection. Rex, once a lone survivor, now stood between the two who had carried him in their hearts through endless uncertainty. The handler's presence brought a sense of completion, a chapter that had remained open finally closing. As they shared stories of battles fought and sacrifices made, a fragile peace settled over the group. The past was heavy, but here, among friends reunited, it felt lighter, transformed by the power of love and loyalty. Denzel looked on, grateful to witness the healing unfolding before him. The reunion was a testament to endurance and hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, lost souls could find their way back to each other. And in that shared space, new beginnings quietly took root. The reunion brought clarity, but also urgency. The handler revealed a troubling truth. Others connected to Rex's past were still in danger, held captive by those determined to keep the secret buried. The files, the dog tag, the satchel, they were all pieces of a puzzle that powerful forces wanted erased. With no time to waste, Denzel, the woman, the handler, and Rex prepared for a rescue mission. They gathered what little resources they had, maps, communications equipment, and a few trusted contacts willing to help in the shadows. Every detail mattered. The stakes were high, and failure was not an option. As night fell, they set out under the cover of darkness, moving cautiously toward a remote compound rumored to hold those who knew too much. The journey was tense, each mile bringing them closer to unknown dangers. Rex led the way, his instincts sharp and unerring, guiding them through thick woods and rugged terrain with confidence born from experience. The team communicated in hushed whispers, aware that the smallest mistake could unravel their plan. Denzel felt the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders, but found strength in the quiet determination surrounding him. When they reached the perimeter, shadows danced against the harsh floodlights of the compound. Guards patrolled with vigilance, but Rex's keen senses and the handler's knowledge of their routines gave the team an advantage. Moving silently, they slipped through weak points in the security, navigating corridors that echoed with distant voices and the tension of captivity. Inside, they found those imprisoned, frightened but alive. The rescue was swift, coordinated, and filled with a fierce urgency. Rex moved among them like a guardian angel, his presence a beacon of hope. As they escaped into the night, the group knew this was only the beginning. The rescue mission had ignited a spark, a challenge to the forces that sought to keep the truth hidden. Denzel glanced at Rex, whose eyes burned with resolve. Together, they were fighting not just for survival, but for justice, freedom, and the bonds that refused to break. As the team fled through the dark forest, hearts pounding and breath shallow, the sharp crack of a twig underfoot shattered the fragile silence. Suddenly, a group of armed pursuers emerged from the shadows, cutting off their escape route. Panic threatened to rise, but Rex stood firm, his body tense and ready. Without hesitation, the dog sprang forward, barking fiercely to draw attention and buy precious seconds for the others. His growls echoed through the trees, a challenge and warning rolled into one. Rex darted between the pursuers, dodging and weaving with agility born of countless battles. His fierce determination was palpable, every muscle poised to protect. One of the pursuers lunged, but Rex was quicker, biting into the attacker's arm with controlled force, forcing him to stumble. The chaos gave Denzel and the others the opening to sprint toward a narrow ravine nearby. Rex continued his relentless defense, his bravery unyielding despite the danger closing in. As gunshots rang out, Rex's actions became a lifeline. His sacrifice allowed the group to reach safety, hearts pounding but spirits unbroken. Only when the echoes of pursuit faded did Rex finally retreat, his body marked by scrapes and exhaustion, but his spirit unbroken. Denzel knelt beside him, eyes filled with awe and gratitude. "You saved us," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. The dog looked up, tail wagging weakly, as if acknowledging the bond forged in that fierce moment. The woman gently tended to Rex's wounds, her hands steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. The handler, breathless but relieved, nodded in silent respect. Rex had proven that loyalty wasn't just a word. It was a force that could turn the tide when hope seemed lost. That night, as they gathered around a small fire, the weight of what Rex had done settled over them. His heroic act was a reminder of the strength found in unwavering devotion and courage. And in the quiet glow of the flames, they all understood that Rex was more than a companion. He was their guardian, their hero, and the heart of their fight. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting warm light on the weary group as they finally reached a safe haven. The tension that had gripped their bodies since the rescue mission began to ease, replaced by a profound sense of relief. Tears welled in many eyes, not just from exhaustion, but from the overwhelming joy of survival and reunion. Denzel watched as the woman embraced the freed captives, her face softening with hope and gratitude. Rex, though battered and tired, lay quietly at her side, his loyal eyes reflecting the same emotions. The handler stood nearby, his usually stoic expression cracking as he allowed himself a rare moment of vulnerability. For a long time, no one spoke. The silence was heavy but healing, filled with the unspoken understanding of what they had endured together. Then, slowly, tears began to fall, soft at first, then cascading like a gentle rain. Tears of relief that they had made it through, tears of joy for the bonds renewed, and tears for the battles that had left their marks deep within. Denzel felt a lump rise in his throat as he wiped away a stray tear of his own. The journey had been brutal, filled with fear and uncertainty, but in this moment, all the pain was overshadowed by the light of hope. The tears were a release, a cleansing of the soul. Rex lifted his head, sensing the shift in energy, and moved closer to Denzel. The dog's quiet presence was a balm, grounding them all in the here and now. The woman smiled through her tears, reaching out to stroke Rex's fur. "You saved us all," she whispered. Denzel nodded, voice thick with emotion. "He's more than a dog. He's family." As the sun climbed higher, casting golden rays on the healing faces, they knew their fight was far from over. But in this moment of shared triumph, the tears spoke volumes of resilience, of love, and of the unbreakable bond that had carried them through the darkest nights. Together, they faced the future with courage renewed, hearts lighter and spirits stronger. In the weeks that followed their rescue, a quiet transformation unfolded among them. What had begun as a tenuous alliance forged in crisis gradually blossomed into something deeper, a family bound not by blood, but by trust, shared trials, and unwavering loyalty. Denzel observed the subtle changes with a growing sense of warmth. The woman, once guarded and distant, now laughed freely, her eyes bright with renewed hope. The handler, who had carried the weight of loss and duty for so long, softened in moments of quiet companionship. And Rex, ever the steady guardian, became the heart of their newfound unity. Meals were shared around a worn wooden table, stories told late into the night, and small acts of kindness became the threads weaving their lives closer. The dog, once a symbol of hardship and survival, now embodied the spirit of connection that held them together. They faced challenges, lingering fears, the shadows of their pasts, but tackled them side by side. Walls that had once kept them apart crumbled under the weight of understanding and compassion. The scars each carried became marks of resilience, honored rather than hidden. Denzel found himself more open than he had been in years, comforted by the presence of those who accepted him without judgment. In return, he offered protection and unwavering support, a pillar for the fragile family taking shape. Rex, with his quiet strength and steadfast gaze, was the living bridge between them all. He reminded them daily that loyalty was not just about duty, it was about love and belonging. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of gold and crimson, the woman reached out and squeezed Denzel's hand. "We're more than survivors now," she said softly. "We're family." In that simple truth, Denzel felt a surge of gratitude. From strangers brought together by circumstance, they had become something rare and precious. And as the stars began to twinkle overhead, they faced the future not alone, but united, an unbreakable family forged in the fires of hardship and hope. The days grew longer and gentler, bringing with them a quiet rhythm that nurtured healing for all. In the safe embrace of their newfound family, wounds, both visible and unseen, began to mend. The past still lingered like a distant shadow, but it no longer defined them. Denzel noticed how laughter returned to the woman's voice, how her eyes sparkled with the light of hope rather than pain. The handler, once weighed down by memories too heavy to carry alone, found solace in shared moments and simple gestures. And Rex, whose scars told stories of sacrifice, moved with a renewed calm, his spirit unburdened by the loneliness that had haunted him. Together, they built routines that anchored them. Morning walks through sun-dappled woods, quiet evenings around the fire sharing stories, and days filled with the gentle work of repairing hearts. Each small victory was a step forward, a testament to the strength found in connection. Denzel often sat quietly, watching the sun dip below the horizon, feeling the steady heartbeat of healing in the air. The trailer, once a place of solitude and secrets, had transformed into a home filled with warmth and belonging. There were moments when grief surfaced unexpectedly, a sigh, a lingering glance, a tear quietly shed, but those moments were met with understanding, not fear. They learned to carry their pain together, weaving it into the fabric of their new lives rather than letting it unravel them. Rex remained their constant companion, his loyalty a living reminder that healing was not a solitary journey. Through him, they found courage to face the past and hope to embrace the future. As spring blossomed around them, the promise of renewal echoed in every breeze and blooming flower. This new chapter was not just about survival. It was about growth, love, and the possibility of joy. And as the days unfolded, Denzel felt it deeply. Healing was no longer a distant hope, but a living, breathing reality, one they would write together, page by page. Rex had become more than just a companion to Denzel. He was a lifeline, a steady presence that brought balance and purpose to days that once felt heavy with uncertainty. Each morning, as sunlight streamed through the trailer windows, Rex was there, silent, watchful, and unwavering, ready to face whatever the day might bring. Denzel found comfort in the dog's calm rhythm, a grounding force that helped ease the shadows lurking in his mind. When doubt crept in or memories threatened to overwhelm, Rex's steady gaze reminded him that he was not alone. The dog's quiet loyalty offered a kind of healing that words could never express. Their bond deepened in simple routines. Long walks through the nearby woods where the fresh air cleared restless thoughts. Evenings by the fire where Rex rested his head on Denzel's knee, and moments of shared stillness that spoke volumes without sound. Rex seemed to sense Denzel's moods, responding with gentle nudges or quiet companionship when the weight of the past pressed hardest. Denzel began to understand that Rex's role extended beyond protection or companionship. The dog was a mirror, reflecting resilience and unconditional love back at him. Through Rex, Denzel learned to face his own vulnerabilities with courage, finding strength in their connection. Friends and neighbors noticed the change, often remarking on the transformation in Denzel's demeanor. The once guarded man now carried a quiet warmth, a lightness born from a bond forged in trials and tenderness. Rex had become a bridge, not just to healing, but to a fuller life. One evening, as the sun set in fiery hues, Denzel knelt beside Rex and spoke softly. "You saved more than just my life, boy. You saved my soul." The dog's tail thumped in response, eyes shining with the trust and love that had grown between them. In the tapestry of Denzel's life, Rex was no longer just a thread. He was the heart that held everything together. Under a sky painted with stars, Denzel and Rex sat side by side on the porch of the trailer, the cool night air wrapping around them like a gentle embrace. Years of hardship, loss, and searching had led them here, to a place of peace neither had known before. The journey had been long and winding, but the bond they shared was now unbreakable. Denzel reached down and placed a hand on Rex's head, feeling the steady pulse of life beneath his fingers. The dog looked up, eyes bright and full of trust, reflecting the quiet love that had grown between them. In that moment, words felt unnecessary. Their hearts spoke volumes, an unspoken promise of loyalty, protection, and companionship for all the days to come. Together, they had faced darkness and emerged stronger. Rex was no longer just a survivor or a guardian. He was family, a constant reminder that love could heal even the deepest wounds. Denzel's life had been transformed by this unexpected visitor who had walked into his world and never left. The woman and the handler joined them, forming a circle of friendship and shared hope. They laughed softly, their voices blending with the night's calm, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as one. In the quiet glow of the moonlight, Denzel whispered, "This is home. This is where we belong." Rex let out a soft sigh, settling closer, as if to say, forever. The past no longer held power over them. The scars remained, but they were woven into a story of resilience and love, proof that even the most fractured souls could find wholeness. As the night deepened, the bond between man and dog, between friends and family, sealed itself with a quiet strength. It was a promise etched not in words, but in every shared glance, every gentle touch. And as dawn approached, bringing with it the promise of a new day, Denzel knew with certainty that this forever bond would carry them through all of life's unknowns, sealed by love, unshakable and true.